elasticities, there are 4 types, right? If you look at the notes, we have PED, we have PES, then YED, and also XED. Okay, so if you look at the notes, there are 4 types included. Good news, we are not going to cover the last 2, so this one is not inside our syllabus. Okay, so this is just printed because the whole set is written like that, alright? So I just printed the whole set. So we are only focusing on the first 2, which will be, I'll say is easy, but then it's not convincing, right? Okay, so we're going to focus on the first 2, and we'll look at PED first. Okay, so there are a few key things for each of these concepts, alright? So first of all, the name first. So PED is the price elasticity of demand. Okay, so of course we need to know the full name. All right, so price elasticity of demand. So first of all, PED. So PED, we need to know the definition as well. All right, so you can highlight in the notes. So this one here measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in the own price and ceteris paribus. Okay, you can find this in the notes. So we have a change in price first, causing quantity demanded to change, and we are measuring how much. Okay, so if you recall from chapter 2, we talk about the law of demand, right? Remember? Law of demand, remember? Very little eye contact nowadays. Very hard to look, no one connecting. Law of demand, okay, so law of demand, chapter 2, we say that, let's say there's a price increase, then the quantity demanded falls, okay? Or we have a fall in price, quantity demanded increases, right? So based on this relationship, we say that there is inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demanded. Okay, if you recall this from last week. Okay, so there's a fall in price, there's an increase in quantity demanded, and vice versa, right? So there's always an opposite relationship, okay? So that was for demand, and you draw the downward sloping curve, right? So for PED, the key thing is, we are trying to measure. So for PED, we are putting numbers to it, so you know how much. But we are not going to go very specific, like 0 point something, that kind, right? So it's just classifying to different categories. So look at it later. So first of all, this one, please do remember the definition. So there are cases where they ask you to define 1 mark, or the question asks you to explain something, you can also define first. So measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in the own price, ceteris paribus. You guys remember ceteris paribus? Ceteris paribus? Which means, okay, so everything else stays the same. Okay, so this would be PED. Question so far? Okay, so we also need to know the formula, okay? So we also need to know the formula. So formula here, we have PED, percentage change, quantity demanded, percentage change in the price. Okay, so this one also important, right? The whole note is just like a storybook. Okay, so they slowly explain, but here these are the main things. All right, definition first one, then PED formula second one. So formula, we may not need to calculate anything. Probably not, but not definite. Okay, some cases they ask you to calculate a bit, right? But you may need to use this to explain your answer. Okay, so why are we using percentage change, right? So they may ask you why you're using percentage change. So let's say now the price, okay, I come here. So let's say now the price is $1 and it goes to $1.50. Okay, whatever we buy, right? Let's say the price goes from $1 to $1.50. Then the quantity demanded, let's say it changes from 60 to 40. This example, okay, makes sense to you? So it gets more expensive, we buy less, right? Now, how do we calculate PED from here? So this one, of course, we say that this will be minus 20 units, right? This one straightforward. Then what about the top part? So the top part, we can say that it is a $0.5 change increase. You can also say that it is a 50 cents increase. Correct, right? Then if you were to put into the formula, let's say there's no percentage, right? I can write it in two ways. We can say 0.5 over negative 20. We can also say 50 over negative 20. Correct? Based on this is correct, right? Because 0.5 is in dollars. So I put 0.5. Then 50 is in cents. I put 50. So if this one makes sense, then I can write this in two ways. But that means you'll get two answers, right? You cannot have two answers. I cannot be fat. I cannot wear XL and S at the same time, right? It's either one. So then which one is the correct answer? Don't have. Very confused because both are correct, right? That means both can also be wrong. So then what to do? We change this to percentage. So if you use in percentage, then you will not end up with two workings, right? You can just have one. So here we change this to percentage. So let's say we use 50 cents over $1. That means this one will be 50% increase. Then for this one, this will be about 33% decrease. This okay? This okay? Make sense, huh? So now because of percentage, we don't care whether you express in dollars or cents. It doesn't matter. It will be the same number, right? Then we're going to calculate the PED value. Okay, so this one has no units. This one is just a number. So the PED can be 1 point something, it can be 2 point something, 0 point something, blah, blah, blah. All right, so it's just a number. So that's one thing. So we use percentage. Next thing is we realize that whenever your prices go up, right, quantity will drop. Then if the prices drop, the quantity will go up. So the direction is always opposite. So if it's always opposite, then you put this into the formula, the answer will always be negative. So negative, positive. Positive, negative. So there's always negative, right? So PED is always negative, okay? So mathematically, when we are calculating, you can leave in the sign. Because technically, when you calculate, it will end up with a negative sign, okay? But for analysis, okay, let's say for analysis, we are going to omit the negative sign. That means we pretend that it is not there. We will not look at it because it doesn't matter, right? Since this doesn't change, it is always negative, then it doesn't tell us anything, right? Whether I go for this slimming program or not, I will always be fat. So that means the slimming program doesn't work for me, right? So that means it's useless. So same thing here, whether whatever numbers there are, whether prices increase, decrease, whatever, it is always negative. So it doesn't change, it doesn't tell us anything, we will ignore the sign. So if the question asks us to calculate, or if they ask you to give the number, we can leave the sign inside. But if they ask you to explain, we pretend that it is not negative. Okay? Question so far? Finish reading the notes, right? That's why all very easy. Okay, so we look at the first case here. We say in this case, PED is more than 1. All right, so there are two usual cases that we need to know. So first one is PED more than 1. We call this a price elastic demand. Okay, so these are the special names to it. Okay, so PED more than 1, price elastic demand. So how we draw the demand curve, we are going to tilt the slope. So price, quantity, then the demand curve looks like this. Okay, so typically, so far, we have drawn it as a 45-degree curve, right? So it's just going down like that, demand curve. Now we adjust the slope, so it looks like this. Supply curve, no change. Okay, so far? Makes sense? Okay. So then what happens is, if you are showing PED and you adjusted the demand curve slope, we are going to shift the supply curve. Okay, so we are going to shift the supply curve. Let's say here, P1. All right. So if you are showing PED and you adjust the demand curve slope, then the only thing you shift is supply curve so that you can see the PED. Okay. So let's say now you tilt this demand curve and you also shift the demand curve, you will not be able to see the effects of PED. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So as you get along, you get more familiar. So demand curve here, we adjust the slope. but we shift the supply curve. So both sides have something to do. Okay, so demand curve, the slope is different. Supply curve, we shift. Then what happens here? Let's say we shift the supply curve right, supply decreases. Alright, we shift the supply curve rightwards, then the supply decreases. Alright, increase or decrease, increase or decrease, supply increase. Okay, must trick a bit so that you suddenly wake up again. Okay, so supply curve shifts right, supply increases. Okay, supply curve shifts right, supply increases. Then what happens? Right, we see that is the usual result. Price will drop and quantity increases. Okay, based on demand supply alone, we already know this. Right, supply shifts right, price drops, quantity increases. But we also know something else, which is the difference in terms of the changes. If you look at the distance, it's very different. You can see, right? Should be obvious the way we draw. So price change is very little, quantity changes a lot. Okay? So in this case, what we see is that the price change, right? The price change is going to cause okay, we use the word big here first, all right? But we cannot use the word big in the answer. Okay, now just for understanding, so there's a price change, there's a big change in the quantity demanded. Okay? Question so far? Enough for today? We'll just play Marvel's movie. Then I see you all next week. Yes, why supply? Supply increases, so supply increase, shift right, shift right. Supply curve, shift right. Okay, so supply shifts right, prices drop, quantity increases. That's what demand supply tells us. Then the additional information is the price change is less than the quantity change. That means you adjust the price a bit, there's a big reaction in the quantity. Okay? So we call this scenario a price elastic demand. So for example, okay, this one. Okay? Let's say now, right, there are many markers, different colors, all from the same brand. Let's say today, these three colors, right? These three colors, I can choose to use either one. All right, I don't need to use blue. I can use black. I can use purple, right? Or even I can use green. So these four colors, these four markers, we call them substitutes. Remember, right? Substitutes. Let's say today the black one increases. So for example, all $1. Okay. Now this one sells for, let's say, $2, right? Or let's say 150, right? So all $1, then now this one increases to 150. So who will still buy this? Actually, not very expensive, just 50 cents more, right? But who will buy this? Will buy this? Buy this? Okay, so there are substitutes, and this one, the difference is just the color, right? And you don't need to use black, you won't die. So then with this small increase, 50% technically, but 50 cents, right? Increase, no one is buying. So you see that the change in price is going to cause all the people to stop buying. So the difference in the quantity is bigger than the price change. Okay? Make sense? Make sense? Okay. Question so far? From here, I can erase. Okay, so we need to know the definition, the formula. In first case, we talk about price elastic demand. This is the diagram. This is how it works. So we talk about, yes, we talk about why is more than one first. Right? What does the what more than one mean? Okay, so formula here. Okay, so suppose in our case, okay, so let's say for the black marker, right, the price goes up by 50%. Yeah. Okay, so let's say now the price goes up by 50%. Then for example, let's say there was a 70% drop in the consumption. Or let's say there was an 80% drop in the consumption. So because of this price change, whatever number it is, it causes the quantity to drop more than that. Okay, so the idea is it causes the quantity to drop more than the price change. So then when you put into the formula and calculate, let's say now this is, okay, we choose an easier number. Okay, so let's say we choose 100, negative 100, right? And then we'll end up with a number of, okay, so negative 100 divided by 50 minus 2. Okay, so this is negative 2, right? This is the PD value. So they ask us to calculate, we see that the PD value is negative 2. Then if they ask us to explain, then we will pretend there is no negative sign and we only focus on the number 2. And this number 2 here is considered as more than 1. Okay? One more time. based on this scenario, we say that whatever price change, the percentage, the quantity will change more. All right, you remember the marker example. So let's say based on this negative 100 divided by 50, we get negative 2, right? So to calculate the answer, we say is negative 2. This is the PD value. Then they ask you to explain, we'll pretend there's no sign, and we'll look at this number and say that it is more than 1. Okay, so why is 1 the benchmark? Because when PED equals to 1, that means this one and this one, they are the same number. Correct? Makes sense, huh? So when PED equals to 1, that means the change in quantity and the change in price, they are the same. If it's more than 1, that means the quantity change will be more or less? More. If it's less than 1, let's say PED is less than 1, that means quantity changes more or prices changes more? Price. See, now you can go for exam already. Okay, so we use 1 as a benchmark. 1 is where both are the same. Then if it's more than 1, quantity changes more. If it's less than 1, then the price will change. All right, then from there, you adjust the diagram. Okay, definition, formula, this case, more than 1, price elastic, diagram. And digest so far? Anything to raise before we add on more things? Oh, yeah, done for this month. See you in next year. Okay, let's go. So we try the case for PED less than 1. So PED less than 1, we call this the price inelastic demand. Okay? The price inelastic demand. So again, the demand supply curve. And this time around, the demand curve will become steeper. Okay? So it's still downward sloping, we just make it steeper. This one make it very flat. Okay? So it's just changing the slope. So here, supply Q0, P0. Okay, so I shift the supply curve. Now I can shift right, I can shift left, doesn't matter, right? Just showing the effect. Let's say here I shift left, okay? You can see the difference. Here, this is a bigger shift. Here, this is a smaller gap. Okay, so it contrasts with just now. So just now, the prices will change very little, quantity changes a lot. This one, the prices change a lot, the quantity changes less. So we call this a price inelastic demand. For example, let's say I smoke, right, cigarettes. And today they say that they'll increase the price by 10%. Do you think I'll stop? Yeah, I'll be addicted. I'm already addicted, right? So I'll continue smoking. Then they add another 10%. Am I going to stop? No. Maybe I smoke a bit less, right? Maybe not 10 sticks a day, just 9. So in that case, the prices will keep changing, but the quantity is just changing very little, right? Or let's say another example, they increased the price of water. They really did. Okay, many times in Singapore. So am I going to stop showering? Stop drinking water? Stop washing clothes? Cannot, right? Everything cannot. Maybe I'll shower 2 times, 1 time a day, right? Not 3 times a day, but I still shower. Okay, so in that case, the prices will change more than the quantity change. All right, so we call this a price inelastic demand. Question so far? Anything? All easy? No questions, huh? Okay, let's move on. So we talk about the 2 cases here. We have price elastic and price inelastic demand. Okay, so this case we have less than 1. So for example, let's say the PD formula. Okay, what's the formula again? Okay. So the quantity change over the price change. Right? Quantity change over the price change. So in this case, let's say the prices go up by 50%, the quantity drops by about 10%. Okay, for example, right, let's say for cigarettes. So prices keep going up by 50%, quantity drops by about 10%. So what is the PD value here? 1/5. Okay, so about 0.2, right? Okay, then if we want to explain, then we will say that this is less than 1. Correct? So we push away the sign. So this one, pretend there's no sign. You look at this number, we say that it is less than 1. Okay? So more than 1, less than 1, we only look at the number. If you also include a sign, then it's always less than 1, right? Because it's always negative. Make sense? Make sense? Okay? So always, you can include a sign when you calculate. But when you are explaining, you push this away, look at just the number and see whether it's less than 1 or in this case, it's more than 1. Okay, price elastic, price inelastic demand. Last question. Okay, let's look at the reasons. Hello. So we look at the factors affecting PED. Okay, so we need to know the two common cases, price elastic, price inelastic. We need to also know what factors will affect them. So how come some products is price elastic? How come some products they are price inelastic, right? So what determines the PD value? So first one here, we say whether you have substitutes or not. Okay, do we have substitutes? So in the case of the markers, right, we say that we can choose something else. Okay, I move on. All right, so do we have substitutes or not, right? So if we have, we choose something else. We have 4 colors. If I can choose purple, I can choose black, blue, and green. I don't need to just stick with one color. Right? So if that one color is more expensive, I'll choose something else. And we all choose something else. So if there are substitutes, could the demand be more price elastic or more price inelastic? Elastic, right? So if you have substitutes, yes, then it will be more price elastic. Okay? All right. Second one. So first and second are similar but not the same thing. First one just asks if you have substitutes. I want to drink something, right? I want to drink something. So I can drink water, fruit juice, bubble tea, soft drinks, or anything, beverages, right? So these are all substitutes. So the second one is asking whether they are close substitutes. That means they're very similar. This one could be close substitutes because the function is the same, it's just a different color. I want bubble tea. So fruit juice, water will not be the same thing, right? The taste. But within the different brands, they are considered quite close substitutes. Here sell fruit tea, that one also fruit tea. That one milk tea, that one also milk tea, right? So they are close substitutes. Or let's say Pepsi and Coca-Cola, right? The taste is quite similar. So if we do have close substitutes, would the demand be more price elastic or price inelastic? If you have close substitutes, elastic, right? Okay, so this one, more than one. Third factor, we ask whether you are a necessity or not. So it's something that we need to use in our daily lives. So water, electricity, food, okay? Transport, probably. So if this is considered a necessity, would the demand be more price elastic or price inelastic? One more time. So if this is considered a necessity, that means you need it for your life. LV bag, is it considered a necessity? Yes. Okay. Electricity? Yes, right? You need it, otherwise you can't survive. So if it is a necessity, would the demand be more price elastic or price inelastic? Inelastic. Okay. So yes. Okay. Next one talks about how much of your income you spend. Let's say I'm buying a marker. Marker costs $1, right? It's $1. So $1 out of my income, let's say I earn $3,000 1 month, right? So $1 out of $3,000 is a small percentage. Let's say instead I look at furniture. Furniture, let's say I buy a sofa, it costs $1,000. So $1,000 out of $3,000 is about 1/3, 33%, right? So which one are you going to take a longer time to think? Furniture, marker, furniture. Okay. So both increase the price by 10%. Which one will you be a bit more careful in buying? Both increase by 10%. So sofa also increased by 10% price. Marker also increased by 10%. Which one will bother you more? Which one will make you like think longer so far? Because that one is 10% is $100. This one 10% is just 10 cents, right? Don't really care. So then in that case, if you are spending more of your income, the higher the percentage of your income you are spending, it makes the demand more price elastic. Okay? So if you are spending a higher percentage, then the demand will be more price elastic. Okay, last one. So time period here talks about how long we have. Let's say today the petrol price go up. Okay, so if you have a car, you're driving, petrol is more expensive. All right. will you immediately stop driving? Probably not, right? It's a complaint, then you drive tomorrow, right? Still going to talk. But let's say over 10 years, right? Is it more likely that you will just not have a car, then you just go with public transport? Probably. Over 10 years, probably there's a higher chance you will change. Okay, so if there is a longer horizon, your behavior is more likely to change, then the demand will be more price. There's only two options, right? 50-50. Okay, one more time. Let's say today petrol price goes up, okay, and you are using it for driving, right? Are we more likely to not buy tomorrow or not buy 10 years later? 10 years later, tomorrow, based on your understanding just now. So will you stop driving tomorrow? Or more likely you will stop driving 10 years later? 10 years later, right? So that means 10 years later, you probably don't need to buy petrol. So that means if you have a longer period, you can change your behavior, then the demand will be more price elastic, inelastic, longer period. Elastic, so longer, that means the demand will be more price elastic, inelastic. Okay, elastic. Okay. So over longer period, you can change your behavior, right? That means I can say, I don't want to buy, I don't want to consume. So the response, the quantity change will be larger. But whereas if it's tomorrow, then the prices increase, you see almost everyone still go and top up petrol, right? Because the behavior had to change. Okay, so this would be in terms of time period. Questions? Quite easy. Quite easy. Anything? Don't have. Nothing? Sure? I can move on? Okay, reuse back. Okay, so we have PED more than 1, price inelastic, and PED less than 1, price elastic. Alright? Okay, can. That's a nice response. Price elastic, price inelastic, right? Okay, so we look at price elastic first. So we understand what this means already. Now we talk about the application. Okay, so how do we use this concept? So suppose you are the business owner, you decide or you determine that the demand for your product is considered price elastic. So based on all these reasons, right? Let's say I sell, value dollar shop, value dollar don't have. Later I'll show you on screen. So you go around Singapore, right? Some of these, I think a lot of places have. So it's a shop that sells things like shampoo, washing powder, washing liquid, then they sell chocolates, they sell a lot of things, but it's very cheap. So like one bottle of shampoo can cost $1. But of course, not the premium brands, right? You cannot expect to find like some top brands, what organic don't have. But if you just don't want to wash your hair, yeah, $1 can find. Then chocolate, maybe 50 cents, $1, that kind of thing. So it's always a lot of people going there. And the brands will be quite common in the sense that if you're looking for the cheap brands, right, other places also sell. They also sell. But the thing is, because these items can be bought in many places. If I don't buy from them, I can buy from the neighborhood supermarket. I can buy from the mini mart, right, below the HDB places. So a lot of places sell them. So there are many substitutes, right? There are many substitutes. And these things you don't need to buy from them, right? There are also many brands. So there are many substitutes around Singapore, for example. So then as a result, this company, the PED probably will be more than 1. Okay, you follow the example. So it's a price elastic demand situation. So then with this situation, your demand is price elastic. How do we maximize revenue? Okay, so we are going to talk about application. So here, the demand is price elastic. We determine that already based on the factors here. Okay, because you can buy all this anywhere, right? And we are choosing to go after the more price conscious or price sensitive customers. So people who go there, they are not looking for some premium items, but they are looking for something cheap. I just want to spend $2 today and bring home a whole basket of something, right? I'm not here to like, get serviced by a top person or buy some premium product. No, I just want something cheap. So then the demand is price elastic. Okay, so this is the situation. How do we make use of this to raise the revenue, to increase the total revenue? Because we want to make more money, right, as a firm. So how to make use of this? So what happens is we are going to reduce the price. Okay, we're going to reduce the price and your quantity is going to increase a lot, increases more. This okay? Make sense, huh? So I'm going to reduce the price. That means you don't charge high price. These people like discounts, like low price. Give them what they want. And then the customers are going to come in huge crowd. So they'll keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. So this shop, even though they sell like washing powder $1, $2, right? The business is doing well. They have many places around Singapore. So what happens is we look at the total revenue. So total revenue at first, okay? Are we able to see from the diagram? Are we able to find the area? How much are we earning in terms of total revenue? So how do we find this? This one is price times quantity. Okay? Is it profit? Total revenue, is it profit? No, right? Not the same thing. So it's just how much you earn. So how much was the revenue at first? So at first, we look at P0 and Q0. P0, Q0. So you can find the box, right? The area here. So here, let's say at label A, then the whole thing here is B. Okay? You can find. So we have area A plus B. So this will be your total revenue at first. Okay? We charge P0, we sell Q0. But we know that the demand is price elastic. So we push down the price to P1. So now this is your current price, P1. And then we are going to push up the quantity to Q1. So where is our new total revenue? Okay. Okay, so everyone's still following. So now, right? So we have area B, and let's say we call this C. Okay, so you can see the difference, right? So it was AB at first, now it becomes B and C. So B is always there, we don't care, right? So it's comparing A and C. Which one is bigger? C, right? So this is a bigger gain, this is a smaller loss. So with this change, the total revenue is increasing, okay? So we need to know this also because they will ask you for exam. All right, so PED more than 1, we have to reduce the price to let total revenue increase. Okay, to keep it simple, right? So PED more than 1, reduce the price to let total revenue increase. Questions? So we talk about PED less than 1. So we have the case of PED less than 1. Let's say I'm selling water, right? I'm selling electricity. And suppose there's no government, then what do I do? Because this is something that people need, right? Everyone needs these items. So then we are going to increase the price. Okay, so here, because they all want something cheap, right? So give it to them. So reduce the price. In this case, you really need this. You really need this item to survive. You cannot do without. There's no substitute. You cannot do without. So no substitute, no close substitutes, necessity. Income doesn't matter much. Then this one doesn't matter much, right? So let's say electricity. So then what happens? Okay, so then what happens is we're going to increase the price. Then quantity demanded, what's going to happen? Decrease, right? But it will be a smaller change. So here is a smaller change. Okay, so then same thing, we look at the total revenue at first. So we have P0 times Q0. Let's say we call this, let's say A and B and C. Okay, so we have area A and B. Too fast, you let me know, huh? All right, so at first it was P0 times Q0. So we have area A plus B. Okay, so these two areas will be our total revenue first. Now we increase the price. So total revenue now, we raise the price P1 times Q1. This will give us area B plus C. Okay, so again, there's a smaller loss, there's a bigger gain. So you get C, you lose A, right? The overall total revenue is going to increase. Okay, you take this down, then I can erase questions. Okay, all done, huh? So I erase, last call. All right, let's look at P. Okay, so we should be able to finish today. So PED, we had the definition. PES also need the definition. So this one measures PED definition, price, right? Okay, so very similar. This one here measures the responsiveness of quantity supplied. Okay, so we change this quantity supplied to a change in the own price, ceteris paribus. Okay, so we are changing the price and quantity supplied changes. In this case, we are going to measure how responsive it is. So again, similarly, you have a formula. So PES, percentage change in the quantity supplied over percentage change in the price. So we're just tweaking a bit of things, quite similar. If you recall as well, the law of supply. Okay, we talk about, okay, never mind. So increase in price, the quantity supplied is going to increase also. Okay, so that's why the supply curve is upward sloping, right? So demand curve, price goes up, quantity demanded drops, vice versa. For law of supply, the price increase, the quantity supplied goes up. So for the firms, right, for the firms, they will increase the quantity supplied if the prices increase to make more profits. That's why you have this relationship. Okay, move on. So now, if you put in the numbers, let's say prices go up by 5%, for example, then this one is going to add by how many percent as well? Correct? So if the prices increase, this one also increases, right? Or if the prices drop, this one also drop. So based on this, we can see that the PES is always going to be positive, negative, positive, right? It's always going to be positive. So PED is always negative, PES is always positive. So because it's always this manner, we are just going to ignore the sign also. Okay, so we're going to ignore the sign as well, right? But of course, it doesn't matter here, right? It's just positive. So we ignore the positive sign. We only look at the number. We only look at the number. So let's come on to the diagrams. Okay, so for supply side, this is, we are drawing for PES. So we're going to adjust the slope of the supply curve. Okay, so like we did just now with demand curve, here we'll adjust the slope of the supply curve. Then after that, we're going to shift the demand curve. So you shift the other one, you adjust the slope for this one. Okay, so we adjusted the slope for the supply curve, then we're going to shift the demand curve. So let's say here I shift this rightwards. Then it will be here. Okay, now whether or not I draw correctly, right, there's a way to check. Because you want to show price elastic supply, right? But we don't know whether the supply curve is drawn correctly. Is it flat enough or is it too steep? Okay, then how do we know? You look at the difference over here. All right, so this one is a bigger gap in quantity. This is a smaller change in the price. So for price elastic supply, same as demand, price elastic supply, we say that the change in price, it will cause a bigger change in quantity supply. And does this show this? This one and this one, do they match? Okay. Change in price causes a big change in quantity supply, right? So this is a bigger change in quantity. This is a smaller change. So this one and this one both match. So if both match, that means we draw it correctly. Okay, so we can just check to see the gap between them. Okay, then price inelastic supply. How do we draw for this? Okay, so we're going to have upward sloping, very steep demand supply curve. Then this one, this is okay. Then what can we do here? What can we do here to show PES? Okay, so we're going to shift the demand curve, right? Let's say we shift here to, okay, and look at this as well to see whether we draw correctly. So this is a bigger gap. This one is a smaller gap. So this is the case for price inelastic supply. Okay, any questions? Just to check, you have the answers for yesterday, right? For those who came in later, one piece. Okay, all have, okay, all done with the board. All done with the board. Okay, done. Okay, we try one question. This one you write out, okay? Because it's impromptu, right? Nothing printed. Let's try one question before we try the second question. Okay. So okay, this one just to test the understanding, all right? Not many marks, not how many marks, right? Just to explain the case, to practice the writing also. So first one, determine the PD value for electric vehicles, which has substitutes in the diesel-powered vehicles. All right. So the question is phrased like this. We will make use of the information inside. Okay, so first of all, it says the PED value, and then we are concerned with electric vehicles, and this will be the clue to answering the question. All right, so as a warm-up first, okay, just to understand how this works. So we need to get the PD value. We have to explain why we give it this, right? What is the reason based on what the question gives us. All right. So let's say we don't know how to start. All right. You don't know what to write. You can't remember any content. Then first thing to do is search for any keywords in the question. So the keywords in this question, we can have PED, we can have substitutes. So PED, substitutes. So PED, we are going to define this because substitutes is just part of the answer. So we'll choose PED. This will be what we start off with first. Okay, so here, okay, definition. Wow, okay. So this portion may or may not have marks, but we don't know how to start, then we just write something first. So you start with the definition for PD. So this is your starting point. Okay, so mostly done. Huh? So there are many factors affecting any product, right, in terms of PD. So to be specific, to be precise, the question gave this as well. Okay, because you can use different factors to explain, right? You get different outcomes. So the question says that for electric vehicles, there are substitutes in the diesel-powered vehicles. Okay, that means EVs and the usual traditional cars, they are considered as substitutes. Okay, this is what it means. Huh? So based on this relationship, we are supposed to get the PED value for electric vehicles. So we can explain first, then you give your answer, or you can give the answer first, then you explain why this is the PED value, depending on whether we have already thought it through. So let's explain first. EVs and the usual diesel-powered vehicles are considered substitutes. Okay, then how does that affect their PED value? So explain first, right? So they are substitutes, price elastic, yes, price elastic, right? But why? Okay, so we can choose something else, right? There's the choice of something else. Okay, so here, okay, mostly done, huh? So, all right. So first thing, we say that there are substitutes, then we define substitutes. Okay, so we say that these are goods that satisfy similar needs, right? The definition. Then from there, we go on to explain that consumers of EVs may be rather responsive to price changes. Okay, so the key concept here or the key thing to use is responsive to price change, right? So they are sensitive, they are responsive to price changes. Then after that, we continue to say that they can choose to purchase these vehicles instead, right? So you can choose. Because you can choose, they become more responsive to the price changes. And the last part, right, we say that the demand for EVs is likely price elastic, PED more than 1. So first of all, the question is asking for the PED value, right? So they're asking for the value. So they ask for this, you have to give the number. You cannot not give the number. Okay, so that's 1. But when you give the number, you cannot also just give the number, right? It's like, I want to buy food from this place. They cannot just give me the food without the plate, right? Or they give you the plate and on the food, no, the food on the plate, then they pass it to you, right? They cannot like that because you need the cutleries also. So some of the things come together. So here, if you talk about PD value, at the same time, also mention whether it's price elastic or price inelastic. Okay, comes together. Huh? Then, because we are explaining using our own understanding, it may not be the case. Okay, so add in the word likely to say that this is probably the case, but not 100%, right? Because you have no data. Okay, so it is likely. So likely because you're not sure, then PD more than 1, you have to pair together with saying it's price elastic demand. All right. Next thing to note is demand here is described as price elastic. Okay, one more time. So when you use the word price elastic, we will combine or we'll pair up with the word demand. So we don't say the PED is price elastic. Okay, so this one, we will not say that the PED is price elastic. All right, this one will be a wrong way of phrasing. Okay, so to be very accurate, we will say is demand that's price elastic. PED is more than 1 or less than 1. Right, the person is tall. His height is 1.8 meters. Right, you will not say that his height is tall. Okay, so demand is price elastic. PED is a number, more than 1, less than 1. So we don't say PED is price elastic. All right, to be precise. Then also, you cannot just say that demand is elastic. It's a lot of things, right? So you cannot just say the demand is elastic. Because if you remember from just now at the start, right, we said there are 4 types of elasticity. We only go through 2 types, but the other 2 doesn't mean they don't exist, right? They are still there. So if you only write elastic, then we are not precise. Is it price elasticity? We also have the other 2. They are income elasticity, and then also we have cross price elasticity. Okay, so if you didn't say anything here, then it's a question mark. Are we talking about income? Are we talking about cross price? Right? So we have to add in the word price elastic. Then it's precise. Oh, we are using the PD concept.